Spark information, Spark Spotlight, what and how to get work file data with Clickforms.
Hello appraisers, this is Brandon with Choice Valuation, and in this Spark video, I'm going to be showing those of you who are Clickforms customers how to get the Spark data work file and then what all you get with that work file. All right, let's go ahead and get started then. So you can see I'm in Spark here. I'm on the grid side of Spark. I have some comps in here. I've got a subject property. I've also, just to let you know, I've filled out the other sides of Spark as well. So I've got the grid side done. I've also done the cost data side. So I've got, let me show you here, the cost approach filled out for my subject property. I've got the other properties in here that I use for site extraction and allocation, which is with the site value tool. And then I also have the market conditions analysis done with all the data there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the work file part of it. So when you click export here in Spark, and by the way, when you click export, it will send over all of the data that you've done in Spark, not just the side that you're on, like the market condition side, but if you've done the grid and the cost data as well in this session, it'll send that over as well, whether to your report or to the work file. So I'm going to click export, and then you click work file PDFs. And then Spark creates the data here. So basically it's creating a folder that is going to download to your computer that will have all of the PDF and even a few Word documents in it. And so we just give it a few seconds to complete that process. And while it's doing that, I also wanted to let you know that when the folder that it's about to download to my computer, and it's doing it right now, that's this work file folder. I'm in Chrome, and so Chrome is just Google Chrome is gonna put it right here. If you're using Firefox, then there's gonna be a down arrow up here, which is like your downloads box. So you can click that and you'll see the work file folder in there. All you do is you click on it to open it. If you're using another browser like Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, then most likely your browser is just going to automatically download it to your downloads folder. And by the way, if you're using Chrome or Firefox, most likely it's in your downloads folder as well. They just have a little bit easier way to access it. So you don't have to go to your computer, find your downloads folder. It's just right here. It just shows it to you here, even though it is in your downloads folder. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on it. And so if your computer it doesn't do this, it doesn't show you, then what you can do is just go to the File Explorer and go to your work file. Oh, I'm sorry, not that. You go to your downloads folder, I should say, and you find that work file. So this one I just downloaded is called Work File 1. So I just find that and I open it. And here are the products that are inside, or I should say the reports that are inside that folder. So I'm going to go through most of these one by one, but I'll try to go through them fairly quickly so I don't take up too much of your time. But first is the property report. That's the first one we'll click on. So that's this right here. And actually, I'm just going to, you know what? I already have all these open in the PDF, so I'll just go through them that way and show you. So I've got the property report. That's this one right here. And when you first open it, you see this first page here, which shows you your subject property and any properties you loaded into the sales grid or rentals grid. And it has just the basic information on those properties. And then page 2 is just a summary map. But starting on page 3 is where you get the good stuff. So if you had loaded in a subject, this first page, starting then, well, actually it's page 3, I should say, is going to be your subject property, and it's all of the MLS and all of the public records data for that property all in one spot. So you've got the basic information, you've got the MLS characteristics, the remarks from the agent, and then down here, all of the information that we get from both MLS and public records. So you can see if there's a discrepancy between the two. So, and again, it's highlighted in red with asterisks here in case you want to quickly scroll through this and see whether there's data where there's a discrepancy. So I can see that for fireplaces, MLS said there was a fireplace, public records said there was no fireplace. And then below that, I've got the prior transfer history, the complete prior transfer histories here. And then I also have the mortgage finance history. And then last here, I've got the listing history. If it's your subject and you've uploaded a listing for your subject or even multiple listings of your subject, then the listing history will be right here. All right, and then next, on the next page, you're going to have maps. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So you've got the first map, which is zoomed in all the way using Google. And if you're in an area where Google has building footprints, which most areas have, then you'll see the footprint of the actual building on the lot. And then the next one is zoomed out a little bit and showing you the satellite overlay. And it also we also have Google highlight in bright yellow any major traffic arteries, so you can see if they're proximate to your subject. And then scrolling on down, it's basically the exact same information, but for your comps that you loaded into your report, or the properties, I should say, that you loaded into your sales grid. And again, all the same information, MLS and public records data all in one place, highlighted in red when there's a discrepancy, the transfer history, the mortgage finance history, and then the maps for those properties. And it's the same thing for every property you loaded into the grid. And again, and the reason we highlighted the primary traffic arteries in yellow is so as you're scrolling through this document, you can quickly see if you have a property, a comp that is actually backing, fronting, or siding to a primary traffic artery. Okay, so that is that. And the next report would be the market conditions report. I'm going to scroll up to the top of this one. So the first thing you see is going to be the neighborhood data. So you've got the low, high, and predominant numbers that we loaded into page 1 of your report. If it was a Fannie Mae report, it tells you any boxes that you had checked in Spark regarding stable and the property values, the supply, and the marketing times. Then the numbers at the top of page 2 or page 3 if it's a condo, if you're doing a Fannie Mae form. And then starting here, you've got the MC information and all the comments we loaded into your MC. And then starting here is what I think is kind of the good stuff, where you actually get the charts, the data, the analysis, the tables of data. That's all in here. So we've got the full breakdown of the market characteristics by data set, so your competing data set, and you've got the actives, pending, sold, and off market, and all that data. And then you've got every single chart that Spark created goes right here into your work file. So you may be loading, between 2 and 6 or 8 charts into your report, and that's great. However many charts or however few charts you want to load into your report, you can do in Spark. But here we actually load every single chart that Spark created into your work file, so you have it for your own reference or to defend yourself later on down the road if you ever needed to. And if it was a bar chart or a line chart where data is kind of grouped together into categories like months or quarters or years, then you also get a table of data below that chart showing you everything regarding each of those periods, like the actual data. Like in this case, it's the median price per square foot. We also have the regression here, the regression analysis, and the equations from the simple regression right there as well. And that's it. Basically, you can scroll through here and see every single chart and table of data that Spark created. And so we'll skip past that. And now the next thing I'll show you is the calculations page. This is kind of like a canned comment page that Spark puts into your report, showing exactly how Spark calculated the data. So starting with the 1004MC calculations, and we reference Fannie Mae. So anything where you see italics, that's the actual Fannie Mae document is showing, and that's how we calculated the data for the MC. Same with the neighborhood data, where we show you right here the neighborhood calculations, like your low, high, and predominant. It explains how we calculate all those right here. And then starting here is the actual regression data. So how we calculated regression, how we calculated what the increase or decrease per month or per year was. That's all here if you need it or you need it to defend yourself or whatever, that's there. Next is the farm list, and I'll just show you this one more time. This is all in that folder that you downloaded to your computer when you hit work file. And so right here, that's the calculations page I just showed you. Farm list, that's this one right here. And when I double click that, that opens up this. And basically the farm list, if you're not familiar with it, is a one-line printout, which is basically one line for every listing that you said was competing with your subject property. And so there's several banks or clients that want this to be attached to your report. So Spark gives this to you, and then you can just attach that PDF right to your report if you wanted to. Okay, so next is the cost data report. So now we're getting into the cost approach information. So we've got a replica of your cost approach. Assuming you're doing a regular Fannie Mae form, this is a replica of the cost approach here. And then you have the actual cost estimate details. Now, in this case, this property didn't have much. There's no patio or swimming pool information in here. There's no enclosed porch or any of that. It just had the above grade dwelling and the garage information, or in this case, it was a carport. So that information, basically everything on the left is what you typed into Spark regarding your subject property, and on the right is the actual breakdown from the dwelling cost estimate. That's all this over here. And then at the bottom you have the depreciation information. And then on the last page, it has a full breakdown of every quality rating for the dwelling and what each quality rating means in kind of a layman's explanation. So if you ever needed this, again, if someone asked you, why did you choose this quality rating, you can come in here and explain this is what it means and why you chose it. And then it does the same thing for patios, porches, and swimming pools. It has their breakdown. And this is just straight from the dwelling cost website or and dwelling cost app. So you can go to there and get it, or we just provide it right in your work file for you. Okay, so then the last thing to show you is the site value report. And so what I mean by that is if you're in Spark and you're on the cost data side, if you actually used the site value tool, so you ran the cost approach on your comps or you use the allocation method, you can click on site value, you calculate everything, and you decide what your final opinion of site value is, but Spark gives you some data to help you with that. If you use this tool, then Spark will put all that data into your work file as well. So I can just, here, let's go back into that. That's the site value report. So I double click on that. And then here we've got the breakdown of all that information. So it starts out with the basics. So your subject site value. In Spark, you choose what your site value is if you want to. By the way, Spark will never tell you what your site value is. It just gives you the calculations and you decide what your site value should be. We think that's something left for appraisers to do. It merely just performs the calculations. And then so down below are the calculations if you want to see those. But up here we have the comment. So Spark can create a comment regarding the site value and it'll put it into your report if you want it. And here's the little widget with the chart details for the site value and adjusted site values. And then down here we have the actual breakdown from site extraction of all of the data. So how what the actual site values were for each of your properties and the adjusted site values of those properties. And then it has the further information down here, and then the actual regression equations are down here. And then starting here we have allocation, and then the full breakdown of all the allocation data, the tables of data, everything here again with the regression information. And then last, we have here, since site extraction, let me zoom out a little bit. Since site extraction is basically running the cost approach on each of those properties that you choose, then Spark gives you the actual cost approach data for all of those properties. So again, you can go back and recreate this and defend yourself if you need to. So again, comp 1 or property 1, the address for that property, and then all the cost data for that property, and then property 2, all that data, property 3, and so on and so forth for all of it. And then at the very end, we also give you, just like I showed you in the cost data report, the full breakdown of what those quality ratings mean, again, in case you ever had to defend yourself. So that's pretty much it. I know the video got kind of long here, but there was a lot to go over since we do load a lot of reports in or PDFs into your work file. But just to break it down one more time, I'm going to close this. So what you do in Spark is you hit export, you hit work file PDFs, Spark is going to create that data, and then once it's done, it's going to download it to your computer, and it will be in your downloads folder. Unless you tell it to go somewhere else, it'll be in your downloads folder. So you just open that up, and when you open it, you see, you basically get this right here. Whoops, not that. You get this. So this is the downloads folder. And so right here, you find where it says work file, and there you go. There's your data. And that's it. That's all there is to it. All right, thanks everybody for watching.